What's good, everyone? This is Mikerotastraphy here, and today I just want to give you an updated guide video on Magneto on Marvel Rivals. This is up to Season 2 on his guide. My first guide I did for him was back in Season 0, which covered everything under the sun, from his basics, his advanced movesets, basic combos, his good matchups, his bad matchups, and also map advantages and disadvantages. This video, however, is going to be much shorter than that, because if you want to have a full breakdown of Magneto's kit and what he does, not much has changed since then. So I just suggest definitely go check out my original advanced guide for him. This video is just going to be an updated video. Now, as of Season 2, he recently lost his team up ability with Scarlet Witch, which is totally fine. Before Emma Frost came to the picture, his original team up ability was called Chaotic Sword, which is basically when he teams up with Scarlet Witch, he gets to wield his metallic sword to shoot long range, and it had no damage fall off. It was really OP back in the pre-Season 0 beta testing, and even when the game launched, it was still a really good team up ability. However, it was Magneto's only capability of poking against enemies from long range. If he didn't have that team up ability, his damage capabilities was only limited to mid-range to close range combat. But this season, they gave up that team up ability for Emma Frost, and his new team up allows him to create a copy of himself, basically a doppelganger that mimics every primary fire and basic abilities that he can do. The only thing the copy can do is obviously can't copy an ult, because that'd be way too OP. But every other skill that Magneto has, the doppelganger can do, and that's really nice. I'll go over how you can best utilize that later on in this video. But I just want to quickly, go over the breakdown. As of Season 2 dropped, his ultimate took a small nerf, but it's not too bad. That makes his ult basically unplayable. You can still one-shot practically every support hero and some squishy DPS heroes in the game so far. Basically, long story short, if you don't know how his ult works, he builds up power based on how much projectile he absorbs during that time. It's that giant sphere when he casts his meteor. It has a base power of 100, but it can add plus 300 to that base power, if you absorb up to 100% of damage, which is projectiles. That's basically kind of gets converted by the percentages, which you see in the middle of the screen. However, for best users of his ult, you don't want to let it go to 100%, because then it'll explode. Always cast your ultimate no later than 80%. Because you'll still get a good enough power absorbed that's still more than enough to one-shot a lot of the squishies, so on and so forth. On top of that, the longer you hold your ultimate, you build power that way. So if you don't release your meteor after a certain duration, it'll add another 300 base power to that meteor on top of any other projectiles you absorb, and that's basically the total power of the meteor itself. Like I said, for best uses, it's best to just chuck the meteor at the support heroes or squishy DPS heroes once you get closer to the 60/80 percentile range, so that you can get the maximum value without risking it self-destructing. But besides his ult taking a slight nerf, he definitely got a lot of good utility buffs through the team up ability of Emma Frost. Now, as I mentioned, he can create a doppelganger of himself, and that can give you a lot of flexibility of what you want to do as Magneto during certain team fights, and it really allows him to be the bully that he really sets out to be. That being said, as I mentioned, because the copy can basically mimic any primary fire and basic ability, you can easily 2-tap a lot of the support heroes or the squishy heroes with ease if you do his bread and butter basic combo, which is his primary fire followed up by a mag cannon at full stacks. Because not only you're hitting the target, your copycat is hitting the target as well. So that's basically doubling the damage, and that's why I said you can easily 2-tap a lot of the squishy heroes when you're in that team up form. Even though the duration is really short, it doesn't take that much time for you to insta-kill many of the support heroes or the squishy DPS heroes. So as long as you're landing your shots, that's really what it boils down to. If you lack the accuracy, I can give you some tips on how you can practice your aim with Magneto on a separate short video. But if you can land your shots, you can definitely shut down a lot of team fights really early on, or even in the middle of a team fight. But that's the offensive capability of Magneto. If you want to play defensive with the team up ability, you can create a copycat of himself, and if you cast your bubble, you'll always be able to bubble yourself no matter what. So because if you bubble yourself, your copycat's going to bubble you too. So it kind of almost feels like a waste. However, if you target an ally and you bubble them, your copycat's going to still bubble you. So that's how you can guarantee double the value and double the protection when you cast that team up ability. So if you have an ally Cloak and Dagger and she casts her ult, and the enemy has a Magneto and he's about to cast his ult, well, you can easily cast your copycat. You can bubble Cloak and Dagger, and the copycat will bubble you as well, so you know that not only you're protected, she's protected too. And because Magneto's going to try to chuck his meteor at her, well, then that's going to fill your mag cannon stack almost instantaneously. So now you can really do some high burst damage in a matter of seconds because of that combo. On top of that, you also have his shield. So if you're in the middle of a team fight, or if you know that you're fighting against a team of like Iron Man, Winter Soldier, or just a lot of heroes with projectiles, and any one of them is about to cast their ultimate, or you're fighting Emma Frost and she's about to cast her ultimate, and some of your teammates are not directly behind you but like a little bit all over the place, you can create a copy of yourself, and both you and your copy could cast your shield, and they can cover a wider radius on protecting your allies because your shield is very big, when Magneto casts his shield. So when you and your copy cast your shield, well, then you can get better coverage to block any incoming projectiles, incoming ultimates, things like that, to not only protect yourself but also your allies too from multiple directions. So that is definitely a really good power play move when you pair your team up ability with any one of your defensive abilities. It almost kind of feels like an ultimate in itself, but it's a team up. But that's definitely one of the biggest changes to Magneto. I'm definitely really happy about that. Other than that, really, his map advantages and disadvantages is pretty much the same. He excels well in close and long range maps because he's able to block incoming snipers, like Hawkeye, Black Widow, things like that, with his bubble, but also with his shield. Even though he can't poke them from afar, he can still provide protection towards himself and his teammates. Close quarter maps is his biggest disadvantages because that's definitely the home of a lot of brawlers. And even though close maps would force enemies to be within his mid to close range for him to poke at enemies, he's also susceptible to other brawlers too. And as I mentioned in the original guide, brawler heroes is his biggest weakness because he has almost no way to protect himself or his allies from brawler heroes other than the bubble. But you can't rely on the bubble every 10 seconds to give yourself that safety cushion to protect yourself against brawler heroes, especially if you're fighting against a full dive comp. It's impossible to protect everyone all the time with just one bubble. Even with your team up ability where you can create a copy of yourself, you can only protect 2 heroes at a time every 10 seconds with that bubble. So even with all of that, brawler heroes is still his weak point, and that means that close quarter maps are also his weak point as well because of that. The only saving grace when it comes to close quarter maps is there's a better opportunity for med packs to be around, and because he has 0 mobility whatsoever, that's kind of a good thing for Magneto, because if you position yourself around your support heroes to keep yourself alive, or if you're not around your support heroes, there's good chances that there should be a med pack nearby and a close map. So you just go, if you're low on health, just disengage from the fight, grab the med pack, and you can jump in without much lag time. But other than that, everything else about Magneto pretty much stays the same. He's a really great tank to pick if you're wanting to learn the basics of the Vanguard, or you just want to get used to the Vanguard role. Magneto is definitely one of those top tier characters that you can easily do plug and play, and you can learn a lot of value of how to be a Vanguard just by playing as Magneto. And that's the one thing I do love about him and his kit a lot. It's very user friendly, but it does have a high skill ceiling for high end pro play. But for season 2, he definitely excels well against a lot of matchups. And you really can't go wrong picking Magneto, especially if you need a solo tank for a competitive matchup. But if you like this video, if you want to stay tuned for other future videos of Marvel Rivals and any future guides, videos on your favorite characters, definitely don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It'll definitely help me out with the algorithm to push my videos out to more users who want to get familiar with Marvel Rivals and learn how to improve their own playstyle with their own favorite heroes. I will be doing more guide videos around Magneto, Squirrel Girl, and Cloak and Dagger just because those are my mains, but I will do other guide videos with other future characters as well. For instance, I just recently did a guide video for Emma Frost, so don't forget to check that out. I'll leave the link for her guide video in the description below. Also, leave a comment down below if you are also a Magneto fan and you've been loving his playstyle since season 0. But if you have any questions about Magneto, also leave a question down in the comments below, and me or somebody else will definitely get back to you. I want to build a community that we can just help each other out with any questions we might have and just improve our own, play style with our own personal experience, thoughts, and opinions as well. This is Mikerotastraphy, and I'll catch you guys later.